last time on Dragon Ball Z.
But the money pit was not without its protection. In addition to numerous traps, it was guarded by a character wielding strange weapons, Virtue's former right hand.
How has the lore changed exactly? What new character developments are going to take place? Find out today.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Mark Yoon, and today I'm bringing another hopefully exciting video. So what I got for you today is our Community Day video. So we are going over the comments that I chose from the past week's videos, the ones that stood up to me, the ones I just generally liked, or the ones I thought needed an answer here. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Starting off with my lore video for Raphael, we have Blood Angel. As someone who started playing with Raphael since Soulcalibur 5, I see him being human again as having a story to develop his character more. It made me like him a lot more because I felt like using him because of the whole vampire vibe and his fighting style. In Soulcalibur 6, his character and personality are a lot more in depth, which makes me connect with him a lot better. Yeah, as I said in the video, I actually do like the new direction that Raphael has started from in this new canon, the new timeline. I would like to see... I think I kind of want him to go away from the vampire thing, to be honest. I did enjoy it and like it, but it seems a bit out of place to me now. Everything can be explained through the astral fissures, obviously, but I would like to see more of a controlled, malfested state, similar to Keelix or Grows with Raphael, to use to protect Amy or something like that, as opposed to, you know, becoming a vampire again. While it was an interesting concept and idea at the time, I think we've moved beyond that, I guess. I did like it, though, but I'm kind of liking the new direction now. Thanks for the comment. Metal Rapper says, I really enjoyed how they did Raphael's story. In particular, the one scene where he poisons the aristocrat over a man's comments about getting rid of Amy. The scene strongly showed how Raphael had developed over the years and how protective he was over Amy's well-being. When you think about it, Raphael could have just easily explained his perspective to the man and there wouldn't have been an issue. But for Raphael, suggesting harm on Amy was an unforgivable sin that required a death sentence, even if it was coming from Raphael's own benefactor. Yep, I agree with that wholeheartedly. He has really good character development in this new game. It actually makes me happy because a lot of the characters in the past had the typical video game thing going on where, like, if you had like the main story, you would have the specific characters that were in charge of that story. Usually it being Sophia or Siegfried in this case, or Killick even. But they definitely gave every character their own backstory fulfilled this time. And there's not much ambiguousness in that aspect anymore. We pretty much get a hardline backstory, and I really enjoy that. So thank you for the comment. Jacobo says, 1. I still have nightmares about major design flaw in Soulcalibur Intro 2 when Neapolitanic era soldiers were pursuing him. Great from the dev side they kind of fixed that, because we were fighting some of the pursuers in story mode. Although I kind of missed the vampire Raphael, but right now I guess him being just a nobleman fencer is more useful for Creative Soul. At some point of the story, he becomes an heir to the House of Dumas. I think I heard that name somewhere. Thanks for the video. Thank you for the comment. And yeah, as I don't want to keep reiterating the same point, I do like the way that he's going. I do like the character development the character has. And I do like that they're actually fixing some of the canonical errors that they had in the past canon. This way, we can actually like have more of a complete story. So hopefully they do more fixing with some of the characters, namely the Korean ones. As you guys know, from you've seen from that video, I was kind of upset with the way they're portrayed. But moving on to the next comment, we have DJ Jin. To start off, I like how Soulcalibur 6 is going for the more visibly sympathetic type of direction with Raphael. It may have been more or less hinted at in the old timeline, however, I was kind of missing the on-screen clarity, and aside from that, I simply disliked how they just cheaply went with the vampire route in Soulcalibur 4. It just felt like an ass-pull type of idea. As if they totally forgot about his original goals. But now, just to expand on the drama, with his desire to form a whole new world, all for the sake of giving Amy a much more secured future, and because we saw Amy being clearly worried about her dear father figure in her own character episode. Thanks to this new power she acquired, you know what'd be awesome? If they pick up on this old ending of hers from Soulcalibur 3 where Keelix was present to help her out, and thus he decides to help her out even more by calling up upon Shanghua and Moxie. to try and assist Amy's desire to make Raphael finally see reason and drop the plan of finding Soul Edge. Of course, since he already had a bad track record with people he believed to be trustworthy, getting abandoned by his own family as well, this would be quite emotionally heavy stuff, especially for Amy, since she has grown to love him with all of her heart, and there he will be, deeming her a traitor, just like everyone else, maybe even mercilessly slapping her in the face to make his message even clearer, etc. Yeah, going back on that, it's just like really nice to reiterate and see that they keep on pushing forward with character development as opposed to what they resorted to in the past, which was a bunch of ass-pullery, if you ask me. They would just basically be like, okay, what character do we want to power up? Let's just either make them have Soulcalibur or Soul Edge, or possessed by them. That's pretty much it. The whole vampire thing seemed weird and out of place, because outside of like the lizard race and the whole aspect of like alchemy and magic, there wasn't much seen before in the way of like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. There was bits and pieces sprinkled in the lore here and there, especially when you come into characters like Zwei and whatnot. But I do like the fact that they are actually adding clarity, which is a big point that he mentioned, DJ Jin, in his comment. It's nice to actually see it without having us, sit here with our headcanons mulling over it and debating what characters have what characteristics and what traits. It's nice to actually see it just laid out before us so that we can move along with the story. Because that was a big problem that the past timeline and past canon of Soulcalibur had going for it. They didn't clarify enough things. They just left everything ambiguous, and everybody was up to their own devices to try and figure out what was going on. Karia Cal says, honestly, I was never a fan of the vampire route that they took with Raphael, so I welcome the change. Again, I completely agree. I think it was, a little out there. Jacobus says, Amy's story equals one freaking conspiracy theory, almost confirmation that Viola is Amy, and Aswell was pretty much creepy there. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that, like, Amy is Viola. I mean, not only do we have the past to go on, which honestly isn't relevant anymore, but now we've seen Amy in bits and pieces of, like, Libra. We see, like, with Aswell, like, stuff, and Amy's Soul Chronicle. So there's enough evidence to go on that, like, she is, in fact, Amy, and probably in Soulcalibur 7, hopefully will become that iteration of the character. Though I'm not sure if I do want both playstyles. It would be nice, though, if they do omit Amy in favor of just Viola, that they actually have her playstyle still there for create a character. That would be my only thing that I would want. Terrence Sproul says, great video, G. Keep it up. Are Amy and Viola the same characters? Yeah, as we just talked about, I 100% believe that they are. I mean, I think everyone believes they are. It's just whether we have sufficient evidence or proof to espouse that at this point. But I think going based on the evidence that's given to us throughout the game, I think it's a matter of a fact that she is, in fact, Viola. Metal Raptor says, I finally played through Geralt's story mode, and while his appearance in the Soulcalibur universe is not exactly canon, I think we can consider the aspects of dimensional travel through the astral fissures as being very much canon. I'd also like to mention that with Soulcalibur 6, time and dimensional travel seems to be a reoccurring theme. Here are some examples of time and dimensional travel throughout the series. Geralt's dimensional travel, 2B, Heihachi, Link, Spawn, and probably Kratos as well. Though it's not covered in the story mode, Cassandra's story actively shows time travel, Amy's story shows up a glimpse at potential futures from Soulcalibur 5, and Soulcalibur 5 actually had Patroclus travel back in time after killing Pyrrha. The more I look at it, the more I feel that Project Soul is planning to take the series in the direction of an alternate universe from that of Soulcalibur 2 through 5 story. As the story goes right now, I highly doubt that Patroclus and Project Soul would start working on a Soulcalibur 7 game. However, if Viola and Zwei are released in the 4th season pass, as time and dimensional travels, possibly going backwards in time to prevent something major, like Algo's resurrection, then it could lay the groundwork for Soulcalibur 7, which would take place on a positive timeline where Sophitia is never corrupted and where Raphael and Amy would never become malfested. Soulcalibur 2 ended with the two swords being intertwined and corrupted one another, yet that doesn't seem to be happening in Soulcalibur 6's version of events. So perhaps Soulcalibur is still pure at this alternate timeline, preventing things from being thrown into chaos. Since Soulcalibur 7 would take place as an alternate timeline from the characters of Soulcalibur 5 could be reintroduced at a younger age, in the story mode they could be also reworked, possibly given a completely different personality and fighting style, for if Project Soul should ever consider continuing with the series with a Soulcalibur 8. Some of that I agree with, some of that I disagree with. I've already talked to Metal Raptor about this in the comment section. from this point on, this is the new canon, the new timeline. So anything that is in the past is in the past, and we can't consider part of this series. We can kind of reference it for what they did in the past, but unless they showed it to be actually like true in this story. So if they take bits and pieces, let's say that they talk about, we see Soulcalibur 4's version of Cassandra coming to warn her past self of, you know, what happened. We can kind of take that those actual actions did in fact happen, but the rest of it, it's kind of like you just have to kind of wait and see what they say is part of the canon, because they haven't officially said that the timelines are as intertwined as it's shown with Cassandra's. The astral fissures and power is like a crazy thing, but we don't know exactly what the temporal displacement is going to be caused by that yet. Of course, like if you're going along with string theory and multi-dimensional kind of things, like we could be talking about that. Of course, all the timelines and everything is interacting at the same time at once, but from a gameplay or a storytelling narrative standpoint, it's a bit convoluted, and whenever stories try to actually do that, they usually lose a lot of people. Not because of the fact that the story doesn't go anywhere, but because of the fact that it simply like has no consequences anymore. Because if a character dies in this universe, we can always pull one from another universe, vice versa. It's the same thing that happened with like Dragon Ball's multiverse and DC Comics multiverse, Marvel, etc. There are a lot of people like dropped off and fell off of that, and then they had to come out and say that like, no, this is the prime universe, this is the main universe, these are the characters that you should care about. And I think that's what they're pointing towards with this, the developers, that like this is the new timeline, this is the new canon. You can reference the old one, but whatever we say is factual, is not factual. And the fact that it's Soulcalibur 2 to Soulcalibur 5, I don't think so either, because even though there's a lot that happened with Soulcalibur 1 in this game, there's a lot that was actually different as well, and a lot that was divulged upon that leads to different aspects. So I don't think it's just like leaving Soul Edge and Soulcalibur 1 to its own devices and coming from 2 to 5. This is going to be a complete rewrite of the whole series, because there's already been a massive amount of differences from Soulcalibur 1, I'm just saying. Jacobo says, look out, it's going to be a long lore one only. 1. What I enjoyed most is that they mentioned lots of times that he's a ninja, and this is reference to Yoshimitsu's video. I still remember times when I had to argue on forums with people who called him a samurai, because of his armor and weapon choice. We also get a reason why he had those. It was also for disguise purposes. 2. He also received the story-only abilities, the sword's power for words that forces interrogated people to speak only truth, and the shapeshifting, like we see in Chapter 1 and 2. We could assume that its current form is maybe also a form of shapeshift with only his armor and the mechanical arm staying the same. 3. According to his pre-battle lines, it appears he possesses some information about most characters, and he recognizes Taki and Mitsurugi, even praises them in a way. He also knows the struggle Keelik and Grow are going with, which makes him a part of a bigger picture. He's my main, and I really enjoy him to this day. I also like him a lot, and yeah, the whole point of him being a ninja is, to me, was never even questioned. He doesn't use Bushido, which is like what all samurai use, their fighting style, and it's also their credo and the words that they live by. Samurai meaning to serve. Yoshimitsu is clearly a ninja. He uses jutsu. He uses different hand-to-hand combat. He uses different weapons. That's not really generally like the practice that samurai are used. And samurai were usually just like the defense of the nation, like by order of the emperor. And ninja were more of factions that were protecting bits and pieces in villages of Japan, and they were usually mercenaries for hire. So the fact that anyone, even just because he uses a katana, doesn't mean that he's a samurai. And his armor has nothing to do with samurai whatsoever. The ninja or shinobi wore armor as well, and it's much more along the lines of those, because he even looks like more of like a Tengu, like forest demon. That's what his armor is pretty much going with. But anyone who argued that in the past doesn't really know anything about Japanese culture or like even history at some points. So I'm glad you like him, and now we're moving on. Virgil Ride 70 says, this version of Yoshimitsu is quite interesting. He's actually depicted like a proper tragic character who later redeems himself. Also, I love the fact that this time he's finally interacting with other characters that aren't Voldo or Tira. Seeing Sophia helping Yoshimitsu was something that truly surprised me. Though I'll be honest, I missed the old version where he was more wacky. With how creepy he spoke, he was rarely entertaining to me. Then again, you have no idea how much a breath of fresh air it was for me to see someone properly portray the character for the first time in this game, compared with what Tekken 7 did with him and the others in those character episodes. Yeah, as I said before, Yoshimitsu is actually a lore character. He's like a legendary character in Japanese folklore. So a lot of games have actually used him, from games from World Heroes to Tekken to Soulcalibur. There's a ton of others too. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But the character of Yoshimitsu is up for interpretation for whoever does him. So the Tekken 7 version is actually not really a version that's trying to ruin him per se, but just utilizing their own interpretation of the actual folklore itself. Legendary Gamer 62 says, Yoshimitsu is a character that's been in the game for a long time, and I finally know what Assassin looked like without the mask. It quite possibly is that Hwang, because in Soulcalibur 6, Sung Mina's story is part of showing Hwang with a mask on, and Yoshimitsu is the best character for now, and we are getting DLC soon in July. Hwang was showed in Libra Souls, and he could be getting a new style, though I doubt it. I think the new style is going to go towards Young Sung. But yeah, Yoshimitsu is an underrated character. I do really like him a lot, and he's really fun to use. Patriots1112 says, Yoshimitsu is really underrated. He's always kind of low on the tier list, and I don't get it. He is underrated. I think a lot of it has to do with certain aspects of moves. It's not usually for people that are actually inputting certain techniques. It's like, he doesn't fit outside of the normal meta of the game. That's what it is. Because like most characters, they have like 80 to 90% like combo strings. They have a lot of like pop-ups and stuff like that they can actually use endless strings for. Yoshimitsu's not that kind of a character. He's really, really technical. He even has moves that, like, if you're not careful, will take his own life and take his own health. So I think it's because just the difference of his character meta compared to the other characters in the actual game is a lot different. For the most part, you can use all the other characters the same. They have like pretty much similar combo strings. It's really easy to do the same chains, but Yoshimitsu stands out as one of those people. I think Yoshimitsu and Tira also. Tira is like that as well. They're both really complicated characters to use, and I think that's why they're so low on the tier list, because people just don't want to put in the time to actually use them. DeathSoul777 says, in reference to Zasalamel, I just hope the next game he's the main bad guy we get to fight Abyss again. Thank you for another rad video. Nah man, thank you, and thank you. And I hope that Abyss does make its way back out again. I know that it's said that, like, it's not that Zasalamel can't use the form of Abyss anymore. I think he just like pushed it deep down because like his goals are not as one-sided as they used to be. So we'll see if it does make a resurgence of sorts. It would be nice to see if Algol is resurrected, that like Abyss stands up on our side to try and fight against him. That would be a cool kind of super battle thing at the end, similar to like Malfested controlled Kalik versus the boss. So as well. So I just think that would be a really cool and interesting storyline to go with. Sean Image says, this is my favorite character in Soulcalibur next to Hwang. Cool character with a cool and unique backstory. Yeah, he is one of the cooler characters. I actually like him a lot. He's always been one of my favorite characters since he was introduced in Soulcalibur 3. I'm not sure whether it's the scythe or the white robes, or his character and demeanor himself. I just really like Zasalamel a lot, and I'm glad that other people do as well. Ashton Bird says, personally, I think Zasalamel has been an interesting character, though I didn't know much of his character and I thought he was interesting to use in Soulcalibur 4, and I was happy to hear that he reappears in Soulcalibur 6. The fact that he dies over and over again but also comes back again through someone else's life is depressing. The fact that he knows a lot of things is scary but also interesting. The fact that he knows that Algol is interesting despite the fact that we've never seen Algol in this game. However, it depends on what they are planning to do with Zasalamel and Algol. They might make Algol come back in the next game if there's going to be another one, though personally I believe we might see him in the game as DLC, although it depends on the looks of it. Overall, I do like Zasalamel's fighting style, and I do like the character itself. Yeah, I think that touches on what Metal Raptor was saying, that there are bits and pieces of the old canon that are actually still in fact part of the story, but there's no confirmation of that unless they state it in this new timeline. And they in fact have done that with Algol, as well as parts of Zasalamel, and that's seen throughout the story in Libra Souls and everything like that. And to close us out, we have a comment from SolarFlare95. As you know, Zasalamel is my all-time favorite character in the series, so the fact that he played a large role in Libra of Souls had me over the moon. He definitely has his own agenda in mind for the Conduit, that's for sure. I also really like that he adopted a similar goal to Aswell, with wanting to lead the human race to a better future, which gives the two of them a rivalry of sorts, which could lead to some very interesting things in the future of the series. Speaking of, I also like that his vision of the future was heavily implied to be a vision passed to him from his alternate timeline counterpart, which makes him and Cassandra the two characters that interact with previous timeline in the same way. Whether these interactions will also play a major role going forward is tough to say, but regardless, things are going to get very interesting indeed. I do like the fact that they've actually shared information between the two characters amongst themselves. It's just a little bit weird to me because Zasalamel hasn't been shown to do the same things as Cassandra with her character. Zasalamel is pretty much like a character that lives and then dies and then gets reborn and still has a prior knowledge of himself and has to keep on going and going and going. He does have strong agendas, and it was pushed towards the wrong side, or I would say the antagonistic side before in the previous games, but it seems like now with these warnings of the future, he does want to live, and he does, because before he just wanted to die, that's all he wanted to do, but now it seems like he wants to live and he wants to see where humanity can take it, but he still has a plan in motion that it's interesting that's going to come to fruition, and I hope he doesn't end up getting used by Aswell and Algol to their ends, but also helps us on our side against them. With that being said, guys, thanks for all the comments. Be sure to leave more comments on this week's videos to be featured in this Friday's upcoming community video, as always, and I will pick my, not favorite ones, but the ones that are most relevant, the ones I think I can answer that aren't reiterated over and over again, and try to give everyone a chance to shine instead of just like constantly showing the same people. But thank you for always watching. Thank you for always commenting. Thick you.
Hey, what's up, guys? Have you always wanted some sweet Mark Yoon merch? Maybe a Thick You shirt, maybe a shirt from Squirt, maybe my pretty face with my logo all over your body, or a throw pillow, or blanket, or anything? Well, you're in luck, because I just launched my merch store, and it is going to be available on Redbubble, and you will find a link to it in my description box down below. It's got a lot of quality content, and a lot of good stuff for you to pick up, so you can show your support for the channel, and just rep Mark Yoon. Alright, guys, as always, Thick You.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Next time, we dive more into the Soulcalibur 6 lore and find out more information on our favorite characters and mythos. Stay tuned for next time.